Hi everyone, sorry I'm late. I got home from an appointment and all of my kids wanted to go play in the snow. So, usually when my husband's home, it's not that hard for me to help him get them all ready, but when it's just me, because he went back to work after a week, oops, took me some time. It took me like 20 minutes to get everyone out there. So, they're playing, if you hear them yelling in the background. So I decided to do this live today because I think a lot of us are probably experiencing some post-traumatic Christmas disorder because the presents have been opened, it's crazy busy, all the old stuff needs to be gone through, all of the new stuff needs to be put into its place. So when you come on, say hi. I'd love to see who all is here, and we will get started with this. So the first thing I want to do is address the word pleasurable so that we're all on the same page when it comes to what that word means. Already on my post there were like multiple comments saying that people couldn't get behind that name, and that's fairly ridiculous to me because pleasurable doesn't mean anything it's not sexual. It's not a sexual word. So if you look at the word pleasurable, the definition here that I pulled up so I could straighten this out at the very beginning is, let's see if I can pull it up. Come on, guys. Pleasurable, pleasing or enjoyable. That's all pleasurable means. So when I say pleasurable parenting, I mean enjoying parenting, having a nice time, no drama, no stress, no fighting and power struggles or anything like that. That's what I mean when I say the word pleasurable. That's it. So just because I was curious, because it did say here that the word sensual was a synonym for pleasurable, I pulled up sensual and it made me laugh really hard because you can tell that a lot of the synonyms were probably chosen by people that just don't like sex, which I don't understand. If you are new to following me, you'll know that I think that sensual energy is the most important thing. Sexual energy, it's creative energy. We call it creative energy when our kids are young, and then for some reason they go through puberty and it's sexual energy, but it's still the manifesting energy. It's still how you get what you want and all of your desires are brought into being. And anything that you do in your life, whether you realize it or not, you are creating the circumstances around you. So the more you think about how ornery and hard and difficult your children are to deal with, the more ornery and hard and difficult your children are to deal with. And the more you think about your partner and all of their little bits, they're nagging and they're sulking and they're angry outbursts and all that stuff, then that's the more that you're going to start noticing those things, and it won't matter that they're actually nice like 90% of the time, because the only thing that you notice is the angry. And it's not going to notice that your kids are super sweet and cuddly and all that most of the time, because you're just remembering all the times that they're not listening to you and not behaving and not meeting your expectations. So when I looked up the word sensual, some of the adjectives were exciting and tactile, animal, bodily, delightful, stimulating, rough, pleasing, moving. So that's, the more positive ones. And the reason why I laughed is because some of these ones are like unchaste and unspiritual and steamy and okay, if you want to sexualize everything, then go ahead and use that as the word sensual. When I think of the word sensual, I think of using the senses. So we are 3D bodies. We are like human solid bodies, right? And we have our spirit and our souls and all of that stuff. But we are here on Earth because it is a sensual, it's a pleasurable planet. It's a sensual planet. We experience through our senses, sight, ears. So when I say sensual, that's again the definition. So I really want to make sure that everyone who's watching this right now, who's live, who's watching the replay, that you guys understand where I'm coming from when it comes to these words, because one of the things that I am strongly an advocate for is actually claiming back a lot of the words that have turned into Glad you can be ridiculous in public. Hey, you know what? It's fine. I'm ridiculous in public all the time. I appreciate that you said that, honestly, because it made me realize that a lot of the people who are following me probably do think about that word in a more sexual way. I don't. So I really wanted to get everyone on this same page of pleasurable parenting is enjoying your parenting. Sensual living is enjoying your senses, your touch, your taste, your sight, your smell, all of that. That's what humans are for. And if you just go through life numbing and you go through life experiencing the negative and you go through life in all this pain, then of course you're not going to enjoy all of the other parts of your senses. But if you can become a sensual being and really get in tune with every part of your body, like your play is your second chakra right here. Okay? So yeah, your root chakra, this is your safety. Like your sexual organs and all of it, that's your like safety by your tailbone. But then over here, this is your play, your hara space. So, you know, in women we call it your womb space, but in men it's just your hara, it's your second chakra right here. And that's your sensuality, that's your play, that's you're just having fun with life. Like we take life so seriously in America, especially. Like we're constantly shaming each other, we're constantly taking offense to things that aren't meant to be offensive. We're making words mean things that they weren't originally meant to mean. We have all these really weird Puritan type beliefs that we don't even know where they came from. Like I was recently watching that show, Adam Ruins Everything. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, but he talks about circumcision and how Kellogg, like the guy who made Kellogg's like cornflakes, was a Puritan who thought that circumcision was going to stop their boys from masturbating. Like that's where it came from. And I was like, the fuck? And of course I googled it because I always have to like double check everything. That's my saboteur. But like that was insane to me. And then there's so many other things that we actually do in America that when you look at where it came from, it was actually a very like puritanical, very like non-sexual, non-sensual place. And then you wonder why we eat and we're fat, and yet you go to other countries where they eat more like high calorie foods and eat longer meals and things like that, and they're more fit. And it's because they enjoy, like they don't have all this shame around eating. They enjoy their food. They really taste it. It's a very sensual experience to cook when you're over in Europe and other places. In America, we're like, let's just go through the drive-through. It doesn't matter. Let's just get sustenance. We're not going to enjoy it. We're going to inhale it in like 5 seconds. So, I have a lot of new followers, so I really wanted to jump on just now that it's after Christmas. The craziness is over. So when Pleasurable Parenting came to mind for me was when I had finished reading these books, The Whole Brain Child and No Drama Discipline and The Yes Brain, all of which are by the same authors, Dr. Dan Siegel and Dr. Tina Payne Bryson. I will tag them in this afterwards. And those books really opened my mind to a lot of the neuroscience behind parenting. And I was already, you know, out there talking the self-care message, which so many people are out there doing, so many coaches are out there talking that, but I really felt like there was this group of women, these mostly moms, dads, parents were really being ignored, because a lot of us, like, this is our job. Like, I don't get paid to parent my 3 children, and I'm the one that made the choice to have my kids, but it is a full-time job. You guys could go back through my lives and see that I've been asking a lot recently, like, what is your job description when you decide to be a parent? Like, what did you expect when you became a parent? How has that not met your expectations? These are all things that I really like to dive into with my clients, because parenting, there's so much stigma. There's so many things, like the word pleasurable, around parenting that we kind of just do. Like, we know not to hit our kids, but we're still yelling at them. And these books showed me the neuroscience of yelling actually lights up the same parts of the brain as physical violence. So if you're yelling at your kids on a regular basis, you might as well be hitting them, because you're causing the same psychological trauma either way. Another thing that really taught me was that I really think is huge and why I, again, call it pleasurable parenting is that it's connection. It's all about forming the bond between your children. How many of us are adults now and we're thinking, man, I really wish that I had a better bond with my parents. Like, I don't see them very often. Holidays are kind of awkward now. I don't know what to talk about with them because we turned 20 or however old when we moved out, and we have lost that connection. And maybe it ended a long time ago. Maybe you never really had that tight bond with your parents because they were using some of these old parenting techniques, or they were shaming, or they were doing, a lot of these things that, we always kind of joke that parenting doesn't come with an instruction manual, and that most parents are just like, well, maybe you'll hopefully not be a serial killer. And that's like it. When I ask people to tell me what their expectations were for parenting, they either have like a huge list that was just like June Bieber could have wrote it, or they have absolutely no expectations. They've never thought about it. They have no idea what their job description is. They don't know what their goals are. Like, how do you take on a 18, 20, 50 year excursion of parenting? Like, my husband, his dad's oldest brother, there's a 30-year age gap. So when my father-in-law was born, his oldest brother was 30 years old. So that means that his mom was pretty much like raising children for like 50 years. Okay? Like, crazy. 50 years of child rearing. And then you wonder, like, what were her goals? What did she want her children to be? And I don't mean like she wanted this one to be a doctor and this one to be an artist and whatever. Like, how did she want her children to contribute? What was her goal in having so many children? And I understand that in like that time there wasn't birth control and all that stuff, but like, we're doing that now. We're now in this population where less and less people are choosing to have kids, and the ones that are not choosing to have kids are actually the ones that have really high IQs and are really good at adding to the gene pool, and they're sitting here thinking that they don't want to bring kids into this fucked up world. And they don't want to, bring children, or they don't, have the time. They have other things. They want to help save the world, and they don't think that child rearing is the way to do that. And what I realized with learning about child development, the neuroscience, and the structural alignment that I do with my body work and the energy work that I do and all of this stuff, was that we have a sacred duty as parents to create this new generation that does understand that life is supposed to be pleasurable, that life is supposed to be sensual. You're supposed to go out and experience life. We weren't made to go to school and sit inside of a building for 8 hours a day and then come home and do a bunch of homework and then go to 1 or 2 extracurricular activities and repeat that for like 12 years and then go sit inside of another school and do that for another 4 years and then sit inside of a building for the rest of our lives. That's not what humans were built to do. And if you start looking at technology, a lot of our jobs are gonna not exist by the time our kids are old enough for jobs. They're gonna be automated. Robots are gonna be doing it. It's already happening in some places where like robots are working in McDonald's, or doing a lot of the, yes, there's going to always probably be human, like, supervisors, and there's going to be the people that have to, like, repair it, but, like, we all know that we're all going more automated. So for us to assume that our kids are going to need to fill some of these mundane clerical jobs and the things that maybe we as, millennials, a little older, like, born in the 70s, 80s, 90s, like, a lot of our jobs that we just like go and do, the 9 to 5, they're not going to exist by the time our children are old enough. So what do we want them to do? What kind of world do we want to create for them where, okay, all of these base jobs are filled, but then what are the humans doing? Are they painting? Are they creating music? When you learn about things like Notre Dame, that cathedral was built during the height of the first Renaissance, actually, when nobody was poor. They were eating 3,000 calorie diets in France and England, and nobody was poor, and they were like, you know what, let's build the most awesome cathedral that we could ever build. And there were masters. Everyone was professional at something. You were a blacksmith, a glassmaker, a painter, a sculptor, like all of these people. And then you had apprentices underneath you. And then there was a great crash, and all of a sudden the Black Plague and poverty and all this stuff that happened, and we didn't even like reach the same size as those women from the time of Notre Dame until like 1992 was when we finally like got back up in like stature, like the physical size of our bodies. So when you think about the fact that our society, when it's poor, is when we're not creating, where we're dealing with this, we're dealing with this base chakra. Our safety is what's at stake all the time. We're living paycheck to paycheck. We're doing all these things, but we want to get higher. We're trying to get into this play area, solar plexus. This is your power, your heart, loving, all of these things. We are recognizing that we have to do that. You look at a lot of the issues that maybe our parents dealt with, like gay rights and cannabis and things like that, that for those of us that are in our 30s, like that's not a big deal. And our kids don't understand, for the most part, the gay thing or the weed thing or reefer madness or any of that, because information age, like you can get the information on it super fast, and we believe more in social justice and less spending, kind of the whole idea of you can do whatever you want behind closed doors, I just don't want to pay for it. And we're getting there, but we're not teaching any of it to our children. We're like, with our friends, we're one person, and then we come home and we like immediately revert back to our parents because we have no idea what we're doing. We don't know how to connect with our kids. We don't know how to redirect. We don't know how to get over it. We take all these things as personal attacks when it's really, they're just learning. They're just trying to figure out who they are and where they fit. And then we're shaming them and yelling at them and putting them in timeout and isolating them. Or, hey, do you remember when you did this? Like rubbing salt in the wound 2 hours later, or bringing it up to your husband when he gets home, or, making sure that your wife knows what terrible kids they were the whole time that they were, you were watching them while she was at the supermarket. Like whatever it is, we seem to always focus on what our kids don't do, the homework battles, the hitting, the yelling, like all this stuff, and then we don't connect with them. We don't think about why. Like, why is my child acting like this? What is causing this intense reaction? And what do I want to teach? Because the word discipline does not mean punishment. Discipline is equal to disciple. Think about Christ. Christ had disciples. He didn't yell at them. He didn't scream at them. They still did what he asked. They still followed his instructions. We have religion after religion after religion following him. And yet we come from this very Old Testament-y, like, punish, eye for an eye, like, rain down terror and destruction, when that's not what a disciple needed. Disciples learn. If you are a parent and you're disciplining your children, you're teaching your children, and that's all you need to think about. That's the reason why they named that book No Drama Discipline. Because they were trying to reclaim a word. The way I'm trying to reclaim the word pleasurable to mean pleasing and enjoyable, and to reclaim sensual is using the senses and exciting and things like this, and take away some of this negative sexualization, negative puritanical connotation around some of these words. That's what those authors did with the word discipline, and really opened my eyes to realize that I was not parenting from a place of teaching. I was parenting from a place of dictatorship. And you do as I say, when I say, as I say, right this second, or ... And sure, I was using love and logic. So it was more of a natural consequence. But even then, I was having to, like, think of them, and, like, is it going to be, like, is it something that I can actually follow through with? Like, there was just so much, when instead I realized to be a pleasurable parent, to enjoy parenting, I have to enjoy my life. I have to enjoy being me to be able to enjoy being a mom. And I have to enjoy being me to enjoy being a wife. And I have to enjoy being me to enjoy being a parent, a friend, and a daughter, and everything else. Like, when I'm not happy with who I am, and when I'm, like, just being a soul-sucking energy, whatever, like, nobody wants to be around me, and I'm shorter with my kids. I had a post a couple of days before Christmas where I was crying, and I said straight out, like, the most selfish thing that you can do is ruin other people's moods by your bad mood. When you're a mom going around stressed out and angry, it's not, like, it's the most selfish thing that you can do to then be short with your kids, and to snap at your husband, and to just, like, continue to be angry. When instead you have all of these tools, all of these tactics, all the things that I've learned, that I teach my clients, that like, this is why I say pleasurable parenting, because I can help you learn to move through it, to go into the laundry room and have a good cry and laugh about it on Facebook or call a friend or whatever it is you need to do, and then move on and have a great rest of your day and have an amazing Christmas. Like literally the best Christmas that we have ever had. We had the least amount of presents ever. We had the most connection. We had so much fun. We didn't even start opening presents till like 11:30 because we had a nice lazy morning. Like it was amazing because I didn't have any expectations for the morning. And when the kids started ripping presents open at the same time, I wasn't like, oh my God, wait. I was just like enjoying the moment and just reveling in the fact that I get to be in my house and I got to be somewhere that was warm and really feel that gratitude of the season. I think that this was the first Christmas that I really felt the most connected to Christ. And I'm not by any means a Christian. I just really felt that, like, that peace on earth and goodwill to all and love thy neighbor and all of the wonderful things that he taught, and how that's just part of the human experience. When you realize that you get to create your reality, like I talked about at the beginning, you start to realize that you get to create what's enjoyable and what's not. And you get to decide moment to moment if you're irritated or if you're going to take a step back and learn. Are you going to use the tools that you've gained, or are you going to allow your old repatterning to take over? Are you going to keep using your phone that's completely like clogged up with all sorts of data and all sorts of cache data? I told this story in my Moon Goddess group. I just cleared off like 10 gigabytes of data from my phone that was saved from Facebook, and another 5 gigabytes that was just cache data from other apps on my phone. And it took my phone like a little while to reset actually afterwards, but my phone now works better. But I had to do something to fix that. I had to figure out what the problem was. I had been trying all sorts of other stuff and had to like dig into the application and find the setting that was going to help me clear it all out. And once I cleared it all out, I had to reset some stuff. My sounds weren't on the right thing, my folders weren't right, but now my phone's working so much better than it was before. I was able to record all of Christmas and I didn't have to freak out about it. And technology is a great analysis for us because we do all this work to try to change, but then we still allow our old habits to take over. And we don't believe that we can change. We don't believe that we're worth changing. And we just think, oh, well, at least I'm not as bad as, and we are comparing ourselves and we're judging others instead of just staying in our own lane and doing whatever we can to help others, because that's what, again, what being a human is all about, is enjoying every single second, finding pleasure and enjoyment and delight in everything that you can, including your kids screaming and freaking out at each other, because at least you can find something to be grateful for in that moment. And a lot of people can't. A lot of people this time of year are standing in line at the homeless shelter hoping that they can get in. And a lot of people are sitting there with bank accounts overdrawn by $1,000 because their check got lost in the mail. Like, that happened to a friend of mine. Her rent check literally got lost in the mail, and she was down an extra $1,400 out of nowhere around Christmas time. And luckily she's got a great support system that was able to help her, but a lot of people don't. So if you are fortunate enough, then you have no excuse to not doing everything that you can to enjoy the fuck out of your life and just revel in it, and really find a way to teach that to your kids, that they can find joy. Like, my kids are outside laughing and running around in the snow right now. There's no electronics, there's no, like, how simple is that? And then we can learn so much from the snow. I can go out there in a minute or two when I'm done and teach them about ice and snow and like the way that we used to learn. You know, our parents taught us things, and there's so much that we can learn from technology that we can like kind of fact check, because there's lots of actual reliable sources out there like neuroscience or scientific studies and colleges and research labs and all this stuff that help us see the things that maybe we don't know. My favorite thing is when my kids ask me a question that I don't know the answer to because I can just Google it, because I know that's something that my parents weren't able to do. And think about all the lies that are just like perpetuated. Like, did you know that they're actually the snowflake thing where they say that two snowflakes aren't the same is actually a lie? And also, there's never been any scientific proof that the fingerprint thing is also factual. So, more you know. Um, So yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask me. I'm actually gonna go play in the snow. I'm also gonna leave the link to apply to work with me if anyone's feeling called to. I have some openings for one-on-one, and also I am filling spaces for the Pleasurable Parenting Academy, which is going to be beginning on January 11th, and we're gonna close the doors on that on January 5th, so Sunday. So if you're interested in any of this and working with me and getting to that spot where you can enjoy parenting and really love these few precious, precious years that you have with your kids, because honestly, you have a very small window of your life that you get to raise these humans, and hating it and wishing it to be over and yelling and screaming and just being miserable is not the way to do it. The way to do it is to find the strength inside of yourself that exists, the one that made the baby, that supported the delivery, that whatever role you are, whether you're a mom or a dad, an uncle, an aunt, if you have a child in your life that you care about deeply, then trust me when I say that working with me is going to help so much change the relationship with your children and those children that you're caring for. So I'm going to leave the link in the comments for that, and I hope you all have a beautiful, beautiful day. Bye.